Good afternoon, distinguished members of the forum, admirals, colleagues. Can you hear? Yeah. So we are in the last session of this wonderful seminar, and I have been invited to chair this, moderate this session, and we look forward to some very interesting discussions. So I need not mention the protocol of maintaining time for all my distinguished speakers. And I will not introduce them because it is already there in their biodata. They are all distinguished and qualified to speak on their topics. So my first speaker is sorry, George, not you. Okay. The first speaker is Mr. Biju George on industrial safety, zero incident approach adopted at MDL where ships and submarines are built and repaired. So Mr. Biju George, please.
Thank you, sir. Distinguished naval veterans, eminent speakers on and off the dais, serving naval officers, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon. And at the outset, let me thank the IMF for giving me yet another opportunity to be part of this seminar and bringing in a talk on industrial safety, which is a subset of maritime safety. I'll be limiting my talk into the industrial safety purely from the perspective of a shipyard. So I'll be as brief as possible. Overview of safety doesn't need any emphasis. The eminent speakers before me have adequately dealt upon the various facets of this. It can be, in MDL we are seeing this in the 6 buckets. The context where the robust framework of safety is involved, the different kinds of risk to which we are vulnerable, the regulatory importance because we are in constant interaction with what is known as the Directorate of Industrial Safety and Health, DISH of Maharashtra, emergency preparedness, how to handle emergencies, constant training and standard operating procedures to ensure safety compliance in all facets of our activities. Shipbuilding is a highly manpower intensive industry. The yard effort is typically 20 to 25% of the total contract value. That means so many people are involved in the construction of ships. There are high value assets which we are handling. One destroyer, one frigate cost approximately 8,500 crores. So every individual life is important, the asset is important. And I am working in the shipyard for over 34 years now, and 4 years in the position of director shipbuilding in the board level. When I took over as director, I had 8 capital assets of the Indian Navy in my hands. That is 4 destroyers and 4 frigates, each costing approximately 8,500 crores. This is a huge value for which there is no builder's risk insurance available because there is no insurer who can insure that, nor any company can pay premium for that kind of assets. So it's therefore covered under sovereign guarantee. All such high value orders is not a buyer-seller contract which we have in the merchant ship. It's a owner-builder contract in which shipyard functions as an agent. So this is not to belittle any aspect of the safety. So the manpower deployed in destroyers is 22 lakh man days per ship. and in a frigate it's 21 lakh man days. It's of course spread over a period of time. So these manpower who are entering the shipyard, approximately the footfall is 12,000 to 15,000 people entering the yard on a given day. The safety of these personnel are of paramount importance. So it is a combination of in-house, subcontracted people, outsourcing people, etc. So I just flashed this slide when I took over. This was the kind of scenario which is there, where you can see several ships, in one vertical. So this slide is important because it's very important to recognize that each of these ships have approximately 400 to 500 compartments. And if 8 ships are there concurrently in the yard, you can multiply around 3,500 compartments are being simultaneously populated by people in all these ships. And everywhere we find fireworks. So we are playing with fire, we are playing with heavy weights, we are playing at heights. So these are the 3 aspects of shipbuilding from the perspective of safety. Whether it is from steel cutting, steel fabrication, sub-assembly, assembly, grand assembly, erection, lifting, and assembling it into the ship, then launching it on the slipway, docking, undocking, going to the sea, setting out to sea for trials. The entire gamut of operations, at every moment, we are vulnerable to risk, and therefore it has to be completely foolproofed by preparedness. And in the case of submarines, there is an additional activity known as diving, where the submarine has to go up to what is known as the MOD, the maximum operating depth. So it is around 300 meters in the case of Scorpion submarines. One of the questions that came from the floor is the factor of safety. Typically in marine environment, the factor of safety is 2 for all the tools and tackles which we employ. For example, the wire rope, the testing load should be twice the safe working load. So that becomes a thumb rule as far as the factor of safety is concerned. So this is the kind of, this is just to show the enormity of the problem when we are handling safety. And the high risk activities are several. So I've just put into different categories here. So it comprises of working at heights, handling of heavy weights, fire hazard, working in confined spaces, handling of radioactive isotopes, because we have to, for the part of NDT, RTs, etc., hazardous chemicals and paints. Paint is also a big safety issue because the fumes are inflammable, and paint itself is inflammable. So safety practices, the hazards, according to the hazard, we need different kinds of practices to be followed. So regular to minimize the hazards. PPE is well known, but the problem is what we are facing is enforcing that, particularly to subcontracting labors. The safety consciousness, sensitivity needs to have the trickle-down effect. So we have several measures and best practices which have been adopted. We have a dedicated safety team. So when I took over as director shipbuilding, one of the initiatives I did was to appoint dedicated safety personnel, domain experts from outside, and deploy them in shifts into all the 8 ships. Because what was traditionally being practiced was the officer who is on board the ship is given double duty. He will have to do his own work as well as safety is being looked as a side business. So in the light of the vulnerabilities that were involved, we had to pay heavily for that because they were domain experts. But historically it has proved out to be the right decision because of 0 incidents since then. So these kind of posters, which is multilingual, is we have flooded all over the place in our shops, in our workplaces, so that every time, especially the operative is encouraged to wear the PPEs, he gets sensitized, and safety becomes a part of the DNA of the organization, of the culture which is prevalent. So these are some of the what we have already adopted. We have recording of entry is a big issue. We have to muster through tokens. We should, at any point in time, how many people are working inside the ship. This is followed in naval dockyard also. We are following in the ship also. So here unfinished compartments are there, different kinds of activities are there. Then we have SOPs for all these things. Work permit is meticulously implemented, and our own officers check it. This external agency checks it. Only then the permit, final actual activity can give. So special permission is given to do during non-daylight hours, as well as for working in holidays, etc. So safety audits, safety committee meetings, we have enhanced the safety department so that it has to be prevented, it has to be aborted before the risk manifests itself, and that needs to be identified. So these are some of the steps which we have taken, and having said that, there have been many instances of near misses, which gives important clue on where we are going wrong, because near misses are actually forewarnings that something can go wrong, be careful. I would say these are all divine graces, small graces which we enjoy. Near misses, nothing has happened, nothing has gone wrong, but the vulnerability was very, very high. So regular training programs, mock fire and safety drills are being performed. Lockout tag-on system for confined space entry, accounting of manpower, in-house firefighting department, 24/7 readiness. This is for the people who are already working in the payrolls as well as in the subcontractor payrolls. We have also implemented for a safety moment for visitors. Any visitor who is entering is briefed on safety protocols, because this is an industry. If they are, particularly if they are going to the yard, not confined to conference rooms. So we are giving this handout now with do's and don'ts and safety briefings. This is a standard procedure in most of the industry. We are also following this. So safety briefing is important. What are the do's and don'ts inside the shipyard, and the importance of PPE, etc. Having said all this, these are systems that are in place. In the 4 years, by and large, it has been incident-free. But that's not the case when I trace and track the history of shipbuilding in MDL. So I am just taking you through 4 sad incidents which had happened. So these past incidents, I have cherry-picked these 4 incidents, because in all the 4 there were casualties. So this incident is pertaining to one of the destroyers which we were building. There was a carbon dioxide gas discharge test, GDT, which was to be performed on board. So carbon dioxide is a firefighting system on board. And what has happened is carbon dioxide is stored in sub-zero temperatures. I think it is minus 51 to be precise, degree centigrade. So in the discharge test, what is in liquid form is issued out as gas into the compartment as a part of the test for firefighting. So in that process, the volumetric expansion of carbon dioxide is 1 in 450. That means if I have 1 bottle of carbon dioxide as a liquid form, I can collect 450 bottles as gas. That's the kind of volumetric expansion. So one of the valves in the system failed, and the casualty was a naval officer, young officer who was on board. So because of the density of the carbon dioxide, almost to 2-3 feet, the carbon dioxide settled down in the ambient atmosphere inside the compartment. So the officer tripped and he fell, and so he was inside the layer of the carbon dioxide, and he succumbed to his, he died by, asphyxiation. So that was what happened. So it is one valve malfunctioning. So this is one of the incidents. So of course that officer was not meant to be here because he was over enthusiastic. He should not have been near the compartment. So that is one incident which was there. Commander Raghunath sir is here. So this happened when he was director shipbuilding, and we have been working to solve. In the aftermath, we had to go through a lot of issues to fix these kind of problems and to avoid recurrence in future. Any safety mishap can completely malign the reputation of the company. It can adversely affect the business. The reliability and the confidence of people can get shaken if such an incident takes place. The second incident is again on a destroyer. There was a fire on board an under construction ship. So the double bottom tank, typically what is known as the 40 deck and below, this is where all the tanks are. There is very constricted space. So there was an electrical short circuit. And because of that, it caught fire. Somebody, worker was doing a grinding operation, and there was one casualty in this. So this, so it led to the spark, and it caught fire. And what happens? Material like insulation, rubber are highly toxic. Toxic fumes get generated, and it becomes very difficult even to come out of the constricted spaces because the visibility will be absolutely zero, and there will be completely filled with gases. And the third incident is, this is also a very unfortunate thing which has happened, where a worker went to as a part of the maintenance of a lift, he went and he entered the lift, and the limit switch which stopped after reaching the top didn't stop. It went and ultimately resulted in the snapping of the wire rope, and there was a free fall resulting in a casualty. So these are all this all came like the Murphy's Law. It came completely took us unaware. And the fourth and the last incident which I wanted to showcase was this. An old crane was there. We all find this in naval dockyards, in shipyards, which is a fixed crane. So we wanted to dispose it of. And disposal we had given to a contractor. So contractor came with their personnel. They are not well trained in shipbuilding or those kind of things. There is a scrap dealer basically. He has taken this thing. So unfortunately, this is the mindset. Our officers also didn't give that much of concentration and attention. So somebody is dismantling a crane, but the safety team went and examined because it is working in heights, he is cutting away layered by layer. So he went and inspected whether the harness is there, that was inspected, whether the PP is there, all check boxes what we were talking this morning, all were checked. But unfortunately, the harness, and that was at a height, had put on the piece which they were cutting. So because probably maybe it was not visible because it was at that height. So when it was cut, this whole thing crashing down, it was near the wet basin. The crane and the personnel just came together down, and he got dislodged from because harness was completely loose. And in fact, from a WOT officer who saw that, ran to the basin and jumped into the basin and tried to save him, but ultimately he lost his life. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So these incidents, while it's unfortunate, so we had root cause analysis, committees were formed, so we could fine-tune some of the SOPs in the light of this. So what has come to light is a one tier or a one layer of ensuring will not work. It has to go through multiple layers of cross-checking, and what doesn't meet my eye, somebody else will be able to point out those kind of things, like we do in other aspects. So the best PP won't save you if your anchor point fails. So this is true of, so in our shipyard we have a Goliath crane which can take 300 tons of weight. So the rigging is so crucial, because rigging consists of several aspects, because the lifting eye onto which it is with a D-shackle where the wire rope is connected. First of all, the lifting lug should be absolutely impeccably welded. Secondly, the wire rope should be capable of taking the full tension which it will experience during the lift. Then the D-shackle should be tested for the proof load. Then how it is rigged, the wire rope is rigged, etc., is very important. Only when all these aspects are thoroughly checked, we can go with the lifting. Otherwise, the casualty is very high. And the demon lies in the details. For example, in some cases, we have to turn the unit because it is made ulta. While turning, the entire load of the block comes on 2 lifting lugs. If that is missed, the whole thing can become a big disaster. So the lifting lug has to be designed for half of the load of the block, not 1/4 of the load when we are lifting the blocks. So safety, prioritizing safety is essential. We cannot just blame it on human error. So there is a quote here: people say that accidents are due to human error. It's like saying falls are due to gravity. So we cannot excuse ourselves. The whole thing is to be prepared. So safety is a small investment for a rich future, because the stakes are very high, and it takes leadership to improve safety, and it has to be necessarily a top-down approach. It cannot be bottom-up, because normally we cannot leave it to the workers who are on the ground. It has to be enforced meticulously, religiously from the top, so that the lives are safe, the assets are also safe. And I am sometimes my heart beats, especially when the ship has to be delivered. We have this habit of putting maximum people, because there is a lot of pressure from the Navy, from the shipyard, from all stakeholders. Jaldi karo. Then we push maximum people. Towards delivery, we have 800 people occupying around 400 compartments. And whether it's in naval dockyard or whether it's in the shipyard, we have the habit of liberally giving OT that time. We can give OT to the extent that it can affect the circadian rhythm of the people who are working. In the morning we had a discussion on fatigue. So we are also seeing natural deaths, probably because of stress, because of fatigue, etc. So with this I end. Thank you so much for your patient listening. I think I have covered the ground to the extent possible, bringing the safety perspectives from shipbuilding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. George. You just made it on time. I need not have pressed the bell. Our next speaker is Rear Admiral Harish, and he's going to speak about more or less the same thing, safe practices in shipbuilding particularly. And there'll be a lot of common areas, but I think it's a very interesting presentation. And although you have a lot of slides, I know, but try to stick to the time of 20 minutes. So your time starts now. Thank you.
Any problem? Good evening to everybody. Thank you very much for giving me the privilege of speaking to some luminaries who have trained me. I've benefited from their experience over the years. So thank you very much for an opportunity to speak to all of you. I think I'll go straight into the presentation because of lack of time. The scope of presentation. We start with I just give a general overview of my shipyard. EHS is a key result areas, safety policies, safety culture, safety case studies, and we have L&T Safety Innovation School, which I'll touch upon. So the yard is located on the eastern seaboard at Katupalli, and about 970 acres of land. The Adani port, the L&T shipbuilding, we have future land for development, and we have the L&T's hydrocarbon modular fabrication facility. Linear material and process flow, you can see the ship lift. And this whole facility, including the marine works, has been designed and built in-house by L&T. Dry berths, wet berths, in-house design and engineering. Fully digital shipbuilding with Industry 4. 100+ vessels delivered in 15 years. Naval and Coast Guard ships. Interceptor boats made ready ahead of schedule, almost 2 years ahead of schedule. Right now we have 10 ships going on, 2 multi-purpose vessels, 3 cadet training ships, 3 ASW shallow water crafts for GRSE, and 2 fleet support ships for HSL. We also signed master ship repair agreement with US Navy in 2023, and we repaired 4 ships. We have been L1 for 4 projects, which is a global competition. But unfortunately, because of some visa issues, we have not been able to get that ships going. But the problem is being solved by the Ministry of Home Affairs, so hopefully this should work out. We also repaired ships for the Royal Fleet Auxiliaries of the UK Navy. About 170 vessels repaired. Now I come to the business of today, environment, health and safety. We care for environment in terms of sustainable energy. The admin building is green certified and we have a good tree cover. As far as the corporate goals go, we want to be water neutral by 2035 and carbon neutral by 2040. And every quarter the chairman reviews the progress on this. We have an occupational health center in the yard. Safety is a top priority for us. If we look at the shipbuilding safety compliance, as mentioned by my friend Biju, the regulations, the occupier of the factory has to comply, and if any accident takes place, he goes to jail. So it's very stringent. The financial risk, sealing of premises, we have had an incident recently in one of the shipyards which has been sealed because of a death. Legal issues, long engagement, and of course, the most serious of all, reputational damage. So if you look at the Korean shipbuilding, I just pulled out statistics. They have an average of, if you look at the last but one row, almost 40 fatalities a year. Of course, the scale of operation is very high, but it tells us that shipbuilding is a high-risk industry. And like we say that we use unmanned vessels to keep the men off the harm's way, I think the future is we have to use robots rather than men in highly risky areas like welding, blasting, and painting in closed double hull structures, especially in commercial ships. So in our company, every quarter we have to present this EHS performance, and it is monitored by the chairman. So every unit has to present their safety performance. Safety enablers, I think most important is the leadership commitment and process confirmation that when I walk around the yard, I question people, are you seeing anything unsafe? There is something that is amiss? And the workers and the supervisors give you a lot of hints about what's going wrong, and then they are good inputs for you to correct the system. So leadership has a big role to play to give CAPEX in terms of CAPEX and revenue support to all the safety enablers. safety standards, rewards and recognitions, workers, vendors and subcontractors involvement, for a whole plethora. So it's leadership, policy and strategy and people. So we have been certified by ISO 45001 and ISO 14001. We have also been audited by external agencies, and we take it very seriously in order to improve our performance. Key risk areas, as mentioned by Viju, also height, welding equipment and confined spaces. So we make sure that the scaffolding is done by trained people who are certified to be scaffolders. And unless they validate and clear the staging, nobody is allowed to climb on it. Similarly, heavy lifting, risk assessment, NDT of lifting pad I, as just Biju mentioned, and having a trained rigging team is very important. Confined spaces, dual batch system, 3-point contact, buddy system, this is very, very crucial. Lot of accidents happen in confined spaces. So we have regular exercises, and we have made special equipment like tripod stands, rescue pallet, etc. And we carry out drills and exercise. We also have a portable air supply arrangement because carrying air cylinders inside confined spaces becomes difficult. So safety policies and procedures are well written out. Most important thing is, as been said since morning, 300 near misses. If you miss analyzing them, then it leads to one major injury. We all know about the Swiss cheesecake model, and what is important is to avoid concurrent failures. So I think safety culture comes from leadership, employee involvement, open communication, and behavior-based safety. So we have a procedure for new workers. They get medically examined, and they are briefed on safety before they can go on board ship. Of course, the permit to work system, and I think all of us are aware that how permit to work system works. We have, this has been very useful, we have vessel safety coordination committee meeting every day in the morning before people go on board, where we have the LTSB staff, we have the ship's representative and contractor supervisors attending this. So whichever areas where there's a conflict, one can influence, say if you're doing painting and you want to do hot work there, those kind of things are decoupled here in this meeting. EHS communication is very important. I have my safety officer, Mr. Senthilnathan, with me. So every day he keeps sending messages of all over the world. Whatever accident takes place, it is communicated by email to each and every person. This is the accident taken place. This was the root cause analysis. And how do we make sure that it doesn't happen in our yard? So we have something called as a reportable safety concern on WhatsApp, in email. Every employee is authorized to write about safety concerns as he notices it. And it's the duty of the line production engineer to solve it. And this is a record is kept to make sure that we have good, we clear issues at we nip it in the bud. It's also important we have workers coming from all over India, and it's important for they understand Hindi. We work in Tamil Nadu, so it's always language confusion is there. So it is important that you reach out to the workers and tell them how important their life is. Since he talked about social indifference, I think we somehow have a feeling that whatever we do, God will protect us. So unless we do right things, God cannot protect us. So it's important to imbibe that safety culture in people. So this is what we have been stressing. Every life which comes to the yard is part of our family and is precious. We make sure that the PPE, the contractors were not providing quality. So we have decided we'll provide the PPE to the contractors and we'll not risk their workers' life. Avoid overconfidence. Critical 10 seconds. What I keep telling is whenever you do a new thing, just count 10, close your eyes and see what can go wrong. And those 10 seconds are very crucial. It can give you real insights on what can go wrong and you can correct it. So with growing scale of operation in Indian yards, we need to increase training and focus on safe practices. There is family waiting at home. I keep telling my workers, your work come from UP, your parents, brothers, everybody is waiting for you at home. Please take safety seriously. So safety training is very important, onboarding, refresher, awareness. So we have organized programs for safety for workers as well as our staff. We have mass safety briefings and basic drills in firefighting. We also conducted a personal survival techniques because workers told me, sir, we don't know when we go out for sea trials, what if we fall into water? We don't know how do we survive. So we conducted personal survival techniques also for them, so that it's useful. We also started virtual reality safety training, fire and rescue drill every 2 months, and we record the typical response time. We also conduct joint drill with the Navy, and there also we record the evacuation time. We also conduct training with Adani Port, who are our neighbors, because we need to protect each other in times of crisis. Similarly, we have the MFF. Along with them also, we conduct drills so that we can help each other in times of crisis. Safety case studies, because learning from mistakes for enhanced safety, learning from mistakes is important. So we found that, many the contractors were using twin tube gas cutters. We force them to use a 3-tube. So here what happens, the flashback can take place at the handle. Here you have 3 tubes, and the fire safety is far better in a 3-tube one, because the gas mixing takes place here and not in the handle. We also test every 14 days, we test all the gas nozzles for safety. We found that people are using non-ISI regulators, so we have decided to support and provide the regulators ourselves. Fire on ships alongside has been a concern where indiscriminately the firefighting people who come, especially from the safety department, they don't understand stability. They just pump water into the ship at a very high pressure, and then you have flooding in the ship, and then you have stability issues. So we have a manifold in which we have 1.5 inches and 2.5 inches these. So depending on the scale of fire, if it's an engine room, you flood with a larger dia, otherwise you flood with use the smaller dia. So that makes a lot of difference. Of course, thermal image camera, it's very important to locate seat of fire. Otherwise, the fire is somewhere else and you are spraying water somewhere else. It doesn't make sense. So we also bought a special equipment from US, which can give you very good flow rate with very good, almost it creates a mist and a cloud, and there is no whipping. Normally when you're using these, the fire hydrants, it whips on your hand because of the high pressure. So here we are using with nozzles. It was imported long time back, and it can give you large discharges. So the key is regulate the water flow into the ship and have a point where you can evacuate the water so that there are no stability issues. We also noticed that one of the containers were being offloaded, and we were downloading some of the material, and normally these are tied with a band, and that band opened up and this fell on the person's leg. So then we discussed, and I said, why can't we have something like like you can put the forklift on top of that? Why should there be a manual involved? So we got this ramp made, and we are using this to make sure that during the unloading there is no accident. So each injury avoided and each life saved, returning home safe from work, is by itself an invaluable award. So despite that, over the years 2016, 18, 19, we got the British Safety Award. 20, between 20 and 23, because of COVID, we didn't get an award. So 23 again, 24, 25. So I come to the L&T's Safety Innovation School. We have 2 schools at Hazira and Kanchipuram. And the company has made investment because safety is very important for us. We train all our workers in these facilities. So confined space training, demo facilities, working at heights, virtual reality. Last is so we have developed an AI tool. You can see here, when a person is not wearing a helmet, there are almost every shop is covered with cameras, and we get an automated report generation recording. It goes to the manager to say that the person is not complying. We are also developing a similar tool to warn workers to clear off suspended load. We have found that everybody is very inquisitive. I don't know why. Everybody wants to go. There is a barricade. There is no need for a person to go below the crane, but they want to go and see क्या हो रहा है. And ये क्या हो रहा है में उसका जान चला जाता है. So we have seen several times, so we want to use a AI tool so that before we do, somebody gets a thing, immediately a warning that somebody is wrongly positioned there, which can cause an accident. We also put fixed roof lifeline system on all our shops, because every year we have these translucent sheets which need to be repaired, and we are quite worried about the worker who goes there. He shouldn't fall from that height. We have also used advanced technologies in order to ensure that the human involvement is reduced. Automation. And I was just searching, and I found that in China they have already started using humanoids for working on ships. So the shipbuilding, as Viju rightly brought out, tough working condition, highly risky industry. Human fatigue is a problem. 24/7 operations can be done by humanoids. I think automation is going to be critical to offset labor availability challenges and de-skilling of operations. That we are a country with huge demographic dividend, but the reality is the youth today wants to work in Swiggy, Zomato, or making YouTube reels. He thinks he can make very fast buck there. Not many people are interested into shipbuilding. So it's going to be tough as we grow our scale of operations. We need to make sure that we bring in confined spaces, we can see if we can use humanoids. China has already started producing humanoids by about 1 lakh a year. And I think slowly you will find humanoids working in shipyards. Lastly, I think what is important is safety comes from the leader. Care for your men, work will get cared for. It has to come from the leader, and it has to be stressed by the leader without any ambiguity. The leader has to lead the change towards zero harm. Saving lives and stopping injury is the biggest award. It is invisible, but stays forever in one's heart. With that, gentlemen, I'm through. Thank you very much for patient hearing.
Thank you, Admiral Haas. You've done it absolutely on time. Congratulations for all those so many slides, but very well managed. Our next speaker is Captain Umesh Avankar, and he's going to speak on port design consideration, operational efficiency and safety. This is going to be very interesting, I suppose. And I've seen the slides, and as usual, I'm sure there will be a lot of interest after all the 3 presentations have been completed. Over to you, Captain Avankar.
Good evening, distinguished speakers on the dais and ladies and gentlemen sitting over here. First and foremost, thank you for calling me for this session. I think all of us have been talking on maritime safety, that is what is in the water. And the last session was on the shipyard. I think I'm going to talk about the port. That's where I am from. That's what I do for a living. And somebody had said major ports. But just to point out, India has major and non-major ports. Incidentally, non-major ports also have a 50% share in the overall scheme of things. But thought process is major, major, major. But non-major is doing equally well. In fact, I would say they're doing better in terms of efficiency. So Mundra Port, what started off in 1998, that is the example I've taken. That's where I was for 10 years. It has taken 27 years till today, trying to compress the entire safety in about 20 minutes, what has taken 27 years to build. It's a tough task, but doable. Port, we say we require ports, but gentlemen, we have to be clear. If there is cargo, the port exists. If there is no cargo, there is no port. And I think everybody knows out of the 12 major, 185 plus non-major, how many are actually functional and how many are there just to call it a port. So cargo is the prime requirement for ensuring that port actually works. We start talking of safety, that's when it comes to the port. And when we talk of safety, the first thing that comes to mind is the port design. If I were to give you an example, in Mundra port, which handles 200 million, it's from 2013 onwards, it's been the number uno port in terms of cargo handling. On an average, there are about 9,000 trucks which enter the port every day. Every day. There are about 400 plus trucks which operate within the port. In the container terminal itself, there are about 250, and in the bulk, you have about 150. And if you look at this vis-a-vis the human beings, you're looking at any given shift, you will have about 2,000 people. So there is more machine than man over there. When you look at safety, and in the port's parlance, you're looking at marine safety, you're looking at stevedoring safety, horizontal transportation, storage and evacuation. Why I have put this slide? Just imagine you invert the funnel and design the port. A Malacca Max carries 25,000 TEUs. Now, if you want to ship out those 25,000 TEUs and load 25,000, can you imagine the number of trains that you're going to require to come in? Impossible. And if you look at the kind of berths we have in Mundra, we are doing about 10 million TEUs annually. We are the largest in terms of containers. So, the design itself is extremely important. You design it in the wrong direction, you're going to have a traffic jam all over, which is one of the key problems with the port design faces. Safety. I've purposely put achieve a Indian. If I were to ask everybody what is our appetite for safety, Norway to Australia. I will give you an example. We own the Abbott Point port in Australia. We have multiple stacker reclaimers for handling coal, doing about 120 million tons of coal in the country. An average stacker reclaimer costs about 38 crores. So we assumed if we were to do that for Abbott Point, it would cost 10% more, 42 crores. So when we actually sent the design over there, they said we would like to do something on it. So I said, okay. By the time the design came back, it was costing 105 crores versus 38 crores in India. That is the level of safety that they look at versus the level of safety we look at. We had taken up a charter in Norway for discharging cement on one of our chartered vessels. We have 14 ships, and the technicals were all over, and they wanted a noise analysis. And when the equipment, what was running as cement, that's primarily the compressor because it's all pneumatic, the decibel levels were higher compared to what was acceptable over there. So therefore they refused the ship, stating this ship is unsafe for Norwegian ports because the sound levels are beyond the prescribed limits for safety. So they did not charter the vessel. So safety in India, safety Australia, safety in Nigeria. I worked in Nigeria, I worked on an FPSO, and safety, what we want, we have to decide what is safety, to what level do we want to go, and what we can tolerate. We have been discussing on how to change human mind. Continuously we talk of every organization, training de do, training de do, training de do, human mind change karo. But human mind, if it works 12 hours a day, it is going to have a fatigue factor beyond that, jaane do. That happens. How many of us think of hard controls vis-a-vis soft controls? And this, I'll show you the next slide. Mundra has a 60 million ton per annum coal import terminal, what we call the West Basin. There are 4 deep water berths over there. And on the conventional port, which is started in 1998, we have the soft cones where the port entry is there. Whenever a truck comes and you got the porta cabins, people sit over there, we had n number of incidents over there. So when we actually built West Basin, I talked to the planning head, ऐसे मेरे को कंक्रीट का कर दो नीचे. He's saying, why concrete? I said, just make it. There is a huge concrete block down below and you got a porta cabin on top. We've not had a single incident over there because every truck driver knows if he goes and bangs against the concrete wall, it is going to hit him also. No incident. Hard control. And that is what we have always stressed in the entire port. Do hard controls. Of course, you have to have the toolbox stocks. You got to train the people. You have to ensure that training is there. I'm not denying that fact. But from an organization perspective, have hard controls. Ensure a person, even if he wants to make a mistake, will not make a mistake as far as safe and possible. I'll just run you through some examples on how we actually achieved this. In fact, we used to have one incident every day of trucks. When you have so many trucks, those days there were not that many, but there still were about 3,000 trucks, 4,000 coming in. When so many trucks are coming in, even though it was short span, everybody thinks he's a Ferrari driver. He starts from the main gate straight, goes over there, then he brakes. Then he realizes 1 घंटा because incentive है कि इतना ज़्यादा कंटेनर लोड करेगा उतना पैसा ज़्यादा है. Little do they understand that they still have to go and stand in the queue. But mindset, that mindset to change. That time my boss had told me, Unmesh, when are we going to have safe days? So I asked him a simple question. He was also a Marina, Captain Sandeep Mehta. I said, how long did it take to learn safety? I said, when were you climbing on the mast? Did you wear a safety belt? Your chief officer and master told you, be careful. What did you tell him? Accident मेरे को नहीं होता है, दूसरे को होता है. If at our level, it takes us 10 years to learn, for a laborer who's earning 4,000, 5,000 bucks, for him, he's not bothered. उसको पैसा लेके he has to go home. He thinks accidents don't happen. That is the sad part. So what do? Create a hard control to ensure that even if he wants to make a mistake, it will be difficult for him to make that mistake. I'll take you through some examples. And what we have actually done is fit for purpose versus multi-purpose. I think most of you must have gone to Vizag. I think all our naval people or Cochin. Wherever the ports are there, if you look at the photograph, this is a fact. You have a coal terminal, which is a multi-purpose terminal. And on the right-hand side, you have the West Basin, which is a coal terminal, dedicated coal import terminal. I cannot do exports over there. Is it a wise thing to do? Yes, because there are 2 power plants which consume about 1.5 lakh tons per day of coal, so coal import was logical. Total number of people operating that entire 60 million terminal in one shift is 400 people. That's on the other side. On the jetty side, there are 4 people. That's it. Hard controls prevent the people from coming in, and that will prevent a probability of an accident. Because after all this, somebody did ask me, Unmesh, how can you assure you can have 0 fatalities? I said, Germany also they have road accidents, Norway also, India and Nigeria also they have. So I cannot guarantee something. I can reduce the probability, which is a fact, and that's how the probability of having an accident has actually come down. Multi-purpose, fit for purpose. I think everybody must have seen all these wagons going around. And if you see the wagons that we have, especially for carrying bags, they are designed for manual loading. The minute you design something for manual, you have human being. The minute you have a human being walking, you have a potential of causing an incident. That's what it is. Versus you look at the steel coils. Probability of a steel coil rolling out of that cradle is impossible. Originally, we used to discharge steel coils. Each coil is between 26 to 36 tons. You hook it up, it's okay. You put it on the trailer, tight with all the lashings. Invariably, something would not be done the right way because he had to push it fast. Productivity had to go up. Hard control, put a block, 0 incidents after that. Fit for purpose, multi-purpose. all our seafarers over here, whether from the Navy or Merchant Navy, I think all of us understand pilotage and getting the ships in. The demand, and that's what we had signed off with the customer, 24/7 berthing. How many are navigators, I don't know, but I've been a pilot for 10 years myself, so I understand this. In Mundra, you have a cross current about 3.2 knots. The requirement was 24/7 berthing. The ship cannot wait. Berth should wait for ships and not the other way around. That has been our motto. $40,000 a day minimum, that is the kind of loss the ship incurs. So how do you do it? You wait for the high tide to low tide, wait for slack, you're wasting 10 hours, 12 hours. Have an opening which is sufficient. And what we do a lot of navigation simulations. We do it in HR Wallingford, UK, because they have a design. In India, you do it manually, but there you have a computer-based model. We do it for the worst of the conditions, 35 knot winds, because there's the southwest monsoon, tidal current in the same direction, wind and tide in the same direction, and then run the engine failure, rudder failure, and tug failure, so on and so forth. If you can achieve that safely, then you put that as movement successful, you go ahead and do it. If it's a failure, you put it in your BPTS, as we call berthing policy and tariff structure. These are the limits, this is what we can't do. And this is what we do. Everything that has to be taken into account when we are looking at doing a maneuver. Across the Adani ports, 14 ports, we handle 7,500 ships a year. And out of that 11 ports, we have the Marine Department, which we do ourselves. So we do about 6,500 ships. So you can know what is the kind of frequency that we are having every day. And touch wood, we have a fairly decent safety record. And KPIs for the pilot are no grounding, no collisions. Somebody had discussed on Dali and went and banged into the terminal. What went wrong? I don't know anybody has seen our website. In our berthing policy tariff structure, we've called something called a cold move. I know every commercial person who's used our port curses me for it, but it has helped me. Because the charges I levy are 3x the normal charges. What I've said is the engine should never fail during a maneuver. In spite of that, we have about 10 to 15 engine failures. So most of these are brand new ships, 1 year, 2 year old. But the way we have designed it to ensure that we don't have an incident. And a very interesting case, I was sailing and I had a master, he read about that, and ship was diverted from Persian Gulf into Mundra. Got stopped at Singapore, and all the spares that he had asked for 3 years back, all the spares were given with one bold message. He showed me the message. Please ensure when you go into Mundra port, your engine doesn't fail. It's a very, very, very expensive affair. And with that, luckily, we've had very, very few incidents. This is not a revenue stream for us, but it is more of a hurdle for everybody to ensure that they come, they're fully fit. When our ships have been sailing for 17.5 years, every time you go abroad, something goes wrong, bada fine aata hai. But in India, they say, nahi, chalta hai. Why chalta hai? Why can't we have the same standards that we see outside? And that is what we have actually implemented. This is where Mundra port started in 1993. Actually finding, it's all water. The entire Mundra port is on reclaimed land, incidentally. Multi-purpose, 25-meter width jetty, handling steel, handling liquid, handling break bulk, handling everything. Recipe for disaster. But every port starts small. That's how we started. Today it's a complete liquid and LPG jetty with all the safety parameters that are there. No more multi-purpose, no more bulk, no more bulk. Master plan, all this is available in public domain, 400 million plus, and if you look at the East Port, that can handle about 30 million TU. South Basin, which is right in the center, that itself will be handling about 10 million when we expand. Vizhinjam, I think, is the hot topic nowadays, and I was involved in the entire part of it. That's not the construction, but equipment selection, port design, breakwater, the marine part of it. There we had debated on, time is okay? Yeah, 5 minutes, okay. We wanted a fully autonomous terminal with QCs, AGVs or straddle carriers, CRMGs. When we did the costing, it was costing 650 crores over and above a manual terminal. Payback of 72 years. So that was scrapped from day one. But nonetheless, we got the QCs, which are remote operated. We got the CRMGs, which are remote operated. We debated inside whether to have the cabins on the cranes or no. A conscious decision, I said, the minute I keep a cabin, operator to jayega hi jayega, cabin nikal do. There are no cabins over there. Every person remote, you've got a 100% redundancy factor over there, so you don't lose out. Fully remote operated. And youngsters, in the sense, I think we've got a mix of 60-40, 60% females, 40% males operating the entire container terminal. That's the crane operators. Fit for purpose, again, West Basin, a closer look versus multi-purpose. Hard controls, and these are the two mottos that we use to ensure prevent an accident rather than think about an accident happening and then see how to correct it. Try and prevent it in the first place. Car carrier Mundra has a tide of about 5 meters. Before we had the pontoon, what you can see over here, it's a floating pontoon. We used to have a shutout of about 10 hours because every time the ramp went down, the ramp weighs about 300 odd tons. If somebody missed lifting it, or if there was a failure, you can imagine, ship is going down with the ebb tide, ramp is still stuck on top, asking for trouble. To prevent that, have a floating pontoon which can take the weight, 24/7 operations, hard control, so no more. And there are no cars on there. You have a separate parking lot and you got the jockeys taking them in. Same, it's on the ramp. The earlier was on the jetty. 3 components which I made a statement about. Evacuation is again the first inverted funnel. How do I manage to evacuate the kind of cargo? If you're doing 200 million every year, this year I think we'll be clocking about 205 million. So that's the kind of volume that has to go out. We're handling about 35 trains every day and 9,000 trucks. So that is the kind of volume that moves in and out of the port every day. Steel yard, originally there were about 30 odd cranes, 2 people hooking on, waiting for somebody, please lift up, take the weight. Probability of having an incident was very high. Today you got a Goliath vacuum stack on top, he puts it down, 1-man operation. That's it. Working 100% safe, no issues. Project cargo handling, we are talking of 100 tons, 200. The biggest one we've had is 2 cranes of 1,500 tons each, 3,000 tons. I think Thermax was exporting a boiler. They've got a plant over there, 1,500 ton boiler. 2 pieces, one was lifted and second was rolled on under the vessel with a Mediterranean moor. Fertilizer cargo complex, you don't see a lot of headlines during the monsoon season for fertilizer not moving. Originally there used to be about 3,000 laborers in the port to evacuate 1 rake or 2 rakes. Today 10 rakes, 24,000 tons with 200 people. An assembly line. Reduce the manpower, mechanize, not automate, mechanize as much as possible. Small elevation, this is a fishing net. If it starts raining, you can imagine how many people are required to undo it? And we used to have so many incidents, people falling into the hatch. Since there was de-oiled cakes, that's soybean, people didn't die, but soft landing, but things happened. Hard jali, 25 tons. Again, the hooks that we use, you don't require human beings. You just lock it, it stays locked. Hook costs 3x the normal hook. Otherwise, you hold on to the hook, somebody is taking the weight. Lock it, forget it. Fit it, forget it, and move on. Again, port, unless you have the depths, nothing is going to happen. And transparency on the depths is one thing. Luckily, I think today India can handle the largest of the ships. Malacca Max, Vizhinjam, they get one every week. Mundra, we've been handling it for quite some time. You get the bulk carriers, 18.2 meters. You can have the Newcastle Max also, again 18.2, but 250,000. VLCC, we have 2 SPMs. We have built a VLCC berth, 26.5 meters depth. VLCCs come with 22.5 direct berthing alongside. Safety 20% higher efficiency, 15% lesser cost. See, eventually we are a commercial port. Rupaya paisa comes in, whether we like it or not. Multiple dredgers. Do we have sufficient dredging capacity in the country? The answer is no. We do 30 million cubic meters in our 11 ports, that we do it in-house. The dredgers are ours. Everything is done by us. We got a whole dredging department, and that's also which I ran for about 3.5 years. But if you want, JNPT I think gives out a contract in 2 months. You have to dredge, so there is no way DCI or even us we can bring in, because the kind of dredges you're going to require to evacuate that, you're going to require at least 2 big ones and 1 small one to start off if you have to finish in that time span, and only big 4 have that. Vadhavan port is a classic example where you're looking at 250 million tons of soil coming in at Vadhavan. So you can imagine what kind of work is going to happen there. Thank you. So in a short span of 20 minutes, whatever I could. Thank you.
Thank you, Unmesh. I think all my speakers stuck to the time, allotted time, very well managed. And today we had the last session, and different from the first 2 sessions in many ways, particularly the last one is on ports. Very, very important as far as the entire maritime industry is concerned. Building ships, repairing ships, and finally, how do you operate the ships unless you have well-designed ports. So before I sum up the presentations made, may I invite questions from the audience, please? Please mention whom you are. Yes, your name, please. Yeah, can you explain what you meant, please? Now you understand.
Sorry, I'll leave that some other time.
Yes, please.
Sir. Hello. Sir, I am Commodore Pankaj Mehrotra. I am from a merchant navy family as such. My question is that most of the things we have heard today pertain absolutely correctly to cargo, to safeties, connected machinery, ships, engines, various things. But now I think the government is also trying to put a lot of cruise ships into our waters. So we have to get geared up perhaps on the safety of the passengers, the ease of disembarkation, their luggage control, more or less like an airport. How do we, because the volumes are going to be massive. So I would suggest that some thought may kindly be given to this in the next seminar on similar subject. Thank you.
Okay. I think Admiral Nadkarni will note this suggestion. It's a good suggestion and very timely. Unless any of my speakers want to throw some light on that, on MDL, or okay, we'll leave it for the next. Any other question, please?
I'm Commander Hastak, ex-Indian Navy, and I spent 5 years in main fleet and 10 years with DCI. So my question to Captain Abhyankar is, since he said there is a shortage of dredgers, and I'm ex-DCI, I'm told now DCI is going to go in for a large number of dredgers, because otherwise the foreign companies, like you said, the big four, will be into it. Is this true?
Yes, DCI is building one dredger in Cochin shipyard, 12,000 CBM hopper, with a technical tie-up from IHC. And what I read in the news was they are planning to build 2 more after that, but one is under construction, that is for sure. But the 12,000, is it going to suffice? To the best of my knowledge, from what I understand of dredging, since you are also ex-DCI, I don't think it's going to be enough. The kind of dredging work which is there, it is not going to be enough. You're going to require far bigger dredgers, because if you're going to get a time span of 2 months to dredge a channel, you're going to require at least 3 machines to clear it. And that luxury is not there even with one dredger that is going to be built.
Yeah, if I may add to that, during the just last week concluded Indian Maritime Week, the Prime Minister himself had said that, amongst other things, DCI modernizing 11 dredgers, new dredgers for DCI. So that's just, yes? Modern dredgers for DCI, 11. So that's the what I read from the news. Any other question, please?
Sir, Commodore Malhotra hai.
Yes, Commodore.
What is ailing our shipbuilding industry? Why we take so long as compared to any other country, which are considered to be poorer countries, Korea, Japan and all? Why they take much less time to build a ship than we take?
So I just, about 6 months back, I went along with the Secretary of Ministry of Port and Shipping to Korea. And that was my first, opportunity to see the shipbuilding industry in Korea. If you go to any shipyard and you turn your head, everywhere you see a Goliath crane. And about 4 dry docks, 3 floating docks, 3 floating cranes of capacity of 8,000 tons. So you can lift a destroyer with a floating crane. That is the kind of capacity they have. So first and foremost factor is, the infrastructure. Infrastructure, I think we are, I think 150th or maybe they are 100 times more than us in terms of infra. Because in shipbuilding, you will realize that it is a highly capital intensive industry, and they have come up to this stage over 40 years. If you see the Korean shipbuilding industry's history, they started off in 1960 with a law on shipbuilding. Every business enterprise needs consistent policy, and laws gives you consistent policy. So if you look at Japan was useful in Korea developing their shipbuilding industry, and from Korea, China has developed. So the infra is number one. If you look at our labor costs, it's 1/10 of what is there in Korea. But if you look at our productivity, is it 1/10 again? So the main hassle and thing is productivity. The third factor is they're building ships to standard designs. So it's like an assembly line industry. When I was talking to them, they said, I asked them whether automation will help. They said automation is limited, because in shipbuilding, especially in outfitting, hull construction, yes, you can get automation in, but ultimately outfitting has to be rigorously and manpower intensive. But what they have done is they produce ships, 200 ships to one design. And if you're producing 200 ships to one design and you have the infra to do it, your learning curve is very high. So every time you do this thing, they are able to reduce the timelines. And they also told us that if the ship owner wants some changes in design, like he said, make it tougher for them, the charges are very high. You take a standard design, your charges are low. If you ask for any changes, I want change in accommodation for crew, etc., the costs are very high. So they disincentivize any change in the standard design, and therefore their planning process, their supply chain process, their production process gets optimized to produce one ship of a class. In India, it is primarily got to do with, we have been building naval ships. And one important factor why it takes longer on naval ships is, if you take an aircraft or a tank, it is based on a prototype. So the product, the input, the process, and the output is very well defined prior to signing of the contract. In case of shipbuilding, the unit costs are very high. They are built in lesser numbers, so that it is does not go by prototype all over the world, especially naval shipbuilding. It goes, so you sign a contract, and then you then you decide the supply chain. Out of 3 engine manufacturers, you choose one. All the interfaces, then it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You don't know the shape and size of the pieces, and then you have to get the picture right. And therefore, the maximum uncertainties and risks are in shipbuilding are during the process of building the ship. So if you get the inputs right, take for example, I compared F-125 frigates which were built in Germany to say a P-17 Alpha when we were looking at constructing those. F-125 they take 4 years to do the full detailed engineering, and they take 6 years to build the ship. We don't give preparatory time, we give time of only 2 years, and we take much longer to build the ship. The question is, unless your design is fully done, and if you don't do pre-outfitting, then it follows 13810 rule. If you build at the panel stage, you are taking 1 hour. If you build at unit stage, 3 hours, block 8, and if you do after launch, you are taking 10. So the cost spirals up, the effort spirals up. And therefore, the important thing is you have to pull the design to the left. If you pull the design to the left and the supply chain to the left, and if you have full kitting when you are building the ship, you have the design, you have the material, and you have the manpower, then you are kicking it right. I hope I have answered your question. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll add 2 more points to what Admiral Harish has already mentioned. One is the trunk infrastructure also has to be developed, not only the shipyard infrastructure, because steel plates have to move through trucks from large distance. For example, we are placing order on sale, which has to come from east side of the country to the west side. Similarly, the ancillary industry is not mature in our country. In Korea, in China, etc., they work with maritime clusters. Now there is a movement in the right direction with the Government of India initiative to form maritime clusters where the ancillary industry also gets matured along with the entire supply chain is available locally. So unless these things are put in place, ships are going to take time. So there should be frozen design and a fully mature inventory. If these 2 things, these are the 2 pillars by which we can squeeze time for shipbuilding.
Sir,
So I just wanted to add one more point. Now you see most of the propulsion equipment come from Europe right now. Okay, it will take time. We have discussed with the industry, why don't you make engines in India? They say you give us an order of 50 engines a year, then it makes sense to build it in India. Otherwise it doesn't make sense. And if you look at the number of ships that are getting built today, there is a capacity shortage in India, oversubscription of vendors in India, oversubscription of vendors in Europe. When I was talking about getting the equipment on time, they show me the shop floor and they said we are flooded with orders. So one is, Europe is now moving away from social security to defense expenditure, and therefore there are a large number of ships on order. After Mr. Trump has declared, the NATO, that they have to fend for themselves, the number of ships which are on order are very high. So there is a supply chain issue as well. Thank you.
Sir, I'm Captain Kiran Joshi. I have 2 questions. One of them is, recently I visited one industry in Pune only, which manufactures non-ferrous bushes for the Indian Navy. And that's what they told me. And the personal safety in that entire company
was so poor that not a single person was wearing either the mask or the eye protection or the proper PPE. And the second, so this situation is on the ships also. That when I asked the question to the owner, he said that how many times we have told them, but there is no improvement. So what requires to be done to such situation? That is one. The second question is also to the same speakers regarding the ease of procuring the spare parts, which we find very difficult for the ships. I have been working on the ships, so it is very difficult to procure the spare parts in India, where we choose to procure the spare parts in either in Colombo, Fujairah or some other ports. Thank you.
So I think eye protection is really critical. None of us wear eye protection in any of our yards. I think that is, we had in our company recruited a global expert as the head of safety recently, and he came to our yard to audit, and he said that everything is fine, but people don't wear safety goggles. I don't know. I think that is something which is a mindset issue. We have to change that, and very rightly pointed out by you. Thank you very much for that. And as far as ease of procuring for spare parts, what I noticed, we are doing a lot of commercial ship repairs in our yard. And what we notice is they come with the spares. So most of the ship owners have got long-term agreements with the OEM, and they buy and stick to a particular OEM so that the supply of spares, there's a relationship built in. I look after you, you look after me, and that works well. And of course, in countries like US, you know that there is a, if a OEM does not support services to whatever they have supplied, they can be jailed. So I think it's time India also brings up such regulation. We also realize L&T is also an equipment supplier, but then that's how things have to move in order to ensure long-term support. Thank you.
Yes. See, that's why in India we have this jugaad, you know. So it has its own benefits, but at the same time, keeping up with the modern, you know, way of managing things, machinery, etc. It doesn't work always. Usually doesn't work, right? If there are no more questions, then you have a question? Yes, please. Just one question I can take.
My question is regarding port design. Now, Captain Abhyankar has said, now we have got a lot of ports and we don't have many deep drafted ports. And many times the government also, after declaring one port design, then they abandon it, like it happened to Dighi Port. And then it just gets abandoned, then there is no infrastructure, nothing. The whole industry over there suffers a lot. People go and buy trucks and, you know, thinking that and equipment and all that, the port will come up. And then it's suddenly abandoned. Actually, the Vizag port which the Adani took place, it actually came into being, it was during COVID time when signing of merchant navy officers became a problem. So that is the time when big ships started coming there, and the crew change was taking place. That's why they decided to have a port there. So my question is that the deep drafted ports require this dredging and this, that. So how does the government only not do anything for their own ports and they do it for private? If people are doing it, just can you put a on that?
See, when it comes to port design, most of the private ports, they're designed for the largest of the ships which are plying. Eventually, the matrix that you look at in a port is what is your cost per ton. Even though dredging costs are high, it still works out more cost effective to dredge. Inherently, ports which are not designed, say, for example, some of the ports which are there where the breakwater is designed with the tow line, let's say 14 meters, there's no way you can dredge that. So that is fait accompli, you'll have to live with that. But, say for example, Vizag, which was designed, it didn't come as COVID. It was supposed to come 22 years back. But it was not a port which would make profit. So there was a viability gap funding which was given, and we were the only bidder, so we took over. So that was a challenge. So, but that is designed, you look at the breakwater is designed for minus 20.8, the tow line. So therefore, you can dredge it to 20.8. You look at all the other ports, whether it's Gangavaram, Krishnapatnam, all are designed for a particular, but if you have an old port where the breakwater is designed with a tow line of 13 meters, then you can do nothing. So this is a problem with the existing ports, whereas all the new ports, if you can't handle the larger of the ships, you're going to lose business. So they will by default. Dighi, what you rightly cited, is a chicken and egg situation. There is no cargo over there. And my first slide which said, if you have cargo, the port works. If there is no cargo, there is no way a port can work. And Dighi is a classic case over there. There is no cargo.
Jain sir, I'm Major Kamlesh, presently doing technical staff course in Millet sir. My question is regarding the Amrit Kal, the vision which we have given in 2047, and according to that, 90% indigenization has to be done by that time, and more than 300 warships have to be built by that time. How much possible is it, and how much achievable it is, sir?
See, according to the last, what I read in the Indian Maritime Week 2025, it's not only, can you hear me? Yeah. Not only what you mentioned, there's a fleet expansion for SCI of 216 vessels, domestic vessel order 59 ships for oil and gas, green tug program, 100 eco-friendly tugs, Bharat Container Shipping Line, 51 vessels, and I mentioned about modernizing the DCI with 11 new dredgers. So there's an outlaw, there's a projected, 2.2 lakh crores. That's from the Prime Minister himself. So Amrit Kal vision, if we have to go, we have to have hopes. And I'm sure that at least most of it will be achieved in another 15, 20 years' time. So that's all the youngsters can expect. And I'm sure we all, if we do our own bit, we can achieve this. It's not difficult. There's also a lot of partnerships promised, like, CMA, CGM, 6 LNG vessels with Indian flag. That's a big, big development because it will give more employment to Indian seafarers. And there again, there has to be tweaking in the rules of, the rules for CDC and manning and all that as per the Merchant Shipping Act. If we are going to have foreign ships with Indian flag. So all this is in the pipeline. And we can only expect these things will happen. And there will be generation of new employment opportunities, increased tonnage, flag development of shipbuilding, ship repair clusters, port connectivity, efficiency improvement, promotion of green energy, sustainable development, and more indigenous shipbuilding. And finally, enhance quality of life for coastal communities. So with that now, I'll sum up the presentations made by my esteemed colleagues here on the dais. First is Mr. Biju George, Director, Shipbuilding, Mazgon Docks Limited. His emphasis was mostly on zero incident goal, right? Is not just a number target to be reached, but rather a mindset and a commitment to continuously improving safety in the workplace. Now, the zero incident mindset requires a proactive approach, which he discussed, where we identify, address potential hazards before they can cause any harm. Despite the dramatic improvements in construction safety made over the past few decades, the construction industry as a whole is still not very near zero injury goal, but let alone zero incident goal. We are near it, but not achieved it 100%. Actually, this zero injury emerged in the 1990s, if I'm correct. An increasing number of owners and contractors have achieved the zero injury goal on construction projects. The key to these achievements is the 9-0 injury principle established by the Construction Industry Institute, CII. The 9-0 industry safety management, 9-0 industry safety management or GISM principles are as follows. The management commitment, I think this was mentioned in his presentation, staffing for safety, safety planning, safety training, education, worker participation involvement, recognition and rewards, subcontractor management, accident, incident reporting and investigation, and of course, drug and alcohol policy and continuous monitoring of health of the workers and external contractors. Going on to the second presentation by Rear Admiral Harish, also head of shipbuilding at L&T. His presentation was safety practices in shipbuilding, again very much linked to the first presentation. He emphasized on shipbuilding and ship repair facilities should prepare safe work plans for each operation or task in advance to ensure safety and health of workers, and to continually review such plans and operations are carried out and completed. By segmenting shipbuilding and ship repair process and operations, tasks that are hazardous for safety and health of workers can be identified and quantified more easily. Using this approach, the construction repair of ships can be undertaken in a controlled and managed manner, and the safety and health of workers can be protected by eliminating or minimizing any risk involved in the work to be undertaken. In case of ship repair, the ship owner should provide information on any hazardous substances and ship's condition upon arrival, including ship-specific information on the contents of cargo tanks before any repair work is carried out in cargo ballast tank, void spaces, pipe tunnels, etc. This should be verified by the employer using suitable detectors to ensure there are no hazardous substances or gases inside. And the information should be used to adapt safe work plans. He discussed about the modern shipyard, what it should be, and I'm really amazed to see that in no way this is in any way, except maybe, okay, the infrastructure you cannot compare with what you have seen in Korea or Japan. But it's, nevertheless, in these few years, 100 vessels in 15 years, that's a unique achievement, I must say, considering from where we took off. So, Vessel Safety Coordination Committee meetings, and what can go wrong? The usual question, if you always adhere to these principles, I'm sure we can have more safety conscious workplace in the shipyards. The question about humanoids used for welding, this is a concept not only from the safety point of view, because there are some operations in any industry for that matter, and I think the automobile industry recognizes much before that repetitive jobs are better done by humanoids, because if repetitive jobs, it gives, you sort of, the worker gets, his mind gets diverted, it's a boring activity, and then the chances of accidents or incidents. So, seeing that this is being employed in the shipyard is a very big step forward. Then we come to the last, not the least, presentation by Unmesh, Captain Unmesh Abhayankar, head of the ports in Adani Shipping, Adani Cements, and his was on port design considering operational efficiency and safety. This is something, this is, the ports is one of the most, I would say, the fourth leg of maritime industry. You can have ships, you can have seafarers, but what about ports? Without ports, ships mean nothing. And ports have to be designed for the purpose, fit for the purpose. And what he spoke very well about the inverted funnel concept, that means you must have a hinterland where what you do with the cargo, it's no point if the cargo piles up all over the place. I remember in the late 60s or early 70s, when we were getting food from US imported, under the PL 480 scheme. I don't know whether you remember. And we used to see in the ports of Calcutta, the warehouses stocked with powdered milk. And over a period of time, that whole area would stink, because they had nowhere the trucks could not come in. There was no way they could come and take away the cargo. So all that was coming, nearly 50% was rotting in the port itself, because Kolkata port is a very old port. It was not designed to take ships one after other and discharge the cargo. So effective port management goes beyond smooth operation of cargo handling logistics administration. One critical yet overlooked aspect is ensuring safety at all levels, including a port safety management system in place, which is ensuring the safety of personnel, the environment, and infrastructure itself. I think he has touched upon this. It is a systematic approach to managing safety within port environment, and with the proper policies, procedures, practices necessary to identify, assess, mitigate risks to ensure safety. IMO has already, and national laws cover all aspects of safety, including the what you call the ISPS code, that is on security of ports, which is again very, very important. Your business, your ship's business and ships coming in and out also depends on the popularity, also depends on how safe your port is from all aspects. So the new other thing which is coming in today is a cyber security. Sometime back, I think about a year ago, there was a huge uproar in JNPT. There was JNPT? Yeah, they got hacked and the entire port was sort of immobilized for a couple of hours or maybe a couple of days, I don't remember, 2 days, yeah. So these things we have to, with today's, it's not only physical safety, it is cyber safety, cyber security. So to identify hazards, risk assessment, accident investigation, emergency response planning, continuous monitoring for safety improvement, all this comes under systematic advanced port management. And I think Captain Abhyankar has touched upon this in his ports where he is handling Adani ports. And most important, of course, is ongoing training for these employers, including contractors and visitors who come to ensure that everyone is aware of the safety. And there is an aspect of awards. I think nothing can really motivate a common worker if he knows that there are awards. If he maintains a certain discipline, he can be awarded in whatever way possible. So these are the key points which was discussed. And I think, is there anything else to add?
I had a small anecdote.
Yes, please.
Very interesting. I think a lot of you must be knowing the queuing theory. Yeah. When I joined in 19-year-old, I came to Bombay, so I asked the captain. That time there was 100 odd ships at anchorage. He phoned up somebody. So I asked him, why are you phoning up? He's saying, agar phone nahi karunga, to 3 months you'll stay outside. Because that was a congestion. He's saying there's port congestion. As a 19-year-old joining as a cadet, I didn't understand what's port congestion. Then I went into the whole port congestion where you can't schedule. 65% is equal to 100%. So that was the discussion I had with my chairman. And typically in Gujarati, arey hu nathi. Sweat your asset 80-85%. I said no, 65-85. This debate went on for quite some time. I said berth should wait for ships and not the other way around. Eventually, once we had the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Mr. I think Digvijay Singh, and the chairman had come, and we used to have practically 3-4 visitors a week, and I used to go through the entire Mundra port. I felt it was my own port. We went on the car carrier, and he casually remarked, he's saying, Gautam bhai, aapke port mein koi jahaz waiting mein nahi dikhta hai. He remarked, my berth occupancy never goes above 65%. I keep on constructing. I won the battle.
That's it. May I thank our distinguished audience, the admirals, and of course, Admiral Natkarni, Admiral Pasricha, for having us here for this event, and Captain Anand Dikshit, I don't see him. Yes, yeah, sorry. Thank you very much for organizing and calling us here. And I take this opportunity to a learning lesson for me also, although I have been associated with ports in a way in my previous position. But there's a lot of learning to do now what is happening. Eye-opener, particularly from Adani and L&T. I'm very happy and to know what is happening and latest information. So, Admiral Nadkarni, may I thank you very much for this whole event.
I just have a very small point. It is something which personally I feel, and I thought I would bring it up. Admiral Karve will tell you that all my life, if somebody makes a mistake, it has really worried me. And I've always pointed it out and then hoped that the next time the mistake will not be made. I've been here for 8 hours. I'm neither a school teacher nor somebody who's tried to criticize, but I've not heard the word days from one of you. The correct pronunciation and spelling of the word dies is days. So if you would like to check that up, please do that.
I would like to thank the moderator, Mr. Ajoy Chatterjee, as well as the 3 speakers, Rear Admiral Harish, then Mr. Biju George, and lastly, of course, Captain Unmesh Abhyankar, who have taken time off from their undoubtedly busy schedule to be here with us. I always say that it is never too old to learn something new. And today, I think you will all agree that we have learned a lot of things, which most of us, even though we are several years old, may have not heard before in our lifetime or in our career. And despite this being the 3rd session, I'm happy to see that it has been such an engrossing session, and the audience interaction also has been extremely positive. So I thank the panelists for this talk. May I now request the President IMF, Captain Anand Dixit, to kindly present the mementos to the moderators as well as 3 speakers. Mr. Ajoy Chatterjee, firstly. Next is Rear Admiral Harish. Then Mr. Biju George. And finally, Captain Unmesh Abhyankar. May I request all of them to kindly take their seats? We also have, sir, Captain Dixit, just one more. You can take your seat, sir. We also want special memento. We have here Mr. Deepak Mokashi, who is a former general manager at MDL. May I request him to come forward? He was very keen also to contribute to this seminar in the form of presentation. Unfortunately, due to paucity of time, we were unable to give him a slot. But nevertheless, he has sent us a paper as well as a presentation, and we shall certainly include it in our seminar compendium, which we intend to bring out after the seminar. May I request him to accept also a memento from the IMF.